So how much does it cost to rewire a 3-bedroom house? We're going to go through 2 examples. We're going to do a ballpark, and we're also going to go through the house room by room and count all the accessories and work out the costs that way. There's a lot of things to think about when you put your quote together. Obviously, you've got to know what the client wants, how many sockets and everything they want. And you give your input as well and suggest things they might not have thought about. Also, the timings, when is it going to start? Are you going to be held up at all by other trades or building work? Do they have to do something structural, or can you just crack on straight away? And are there any future plans? Are they going to get a loft room built on in the next couple of years or something where you might want to run some cable for that, make that cheaper? Access and things like that. Parking can become expensive depending whereabouts in the country you live. Rubbish removal, again, very expensive. If it's occupied and occupied, that's going to have a massive difference on the price. You've got to think about things. Could it be held up again by things like asbestos? Has it been checked for asbestos? You're going to be held up. And is everything signed off? Have they got the plans in place? Party walls and that kind of thing? Architect's drawings and everything? Depends how big the job is, obviously. But could that hold you up again? All these things that could impact on the price. And then you've got to think about the labour, your materials, your overheads, tools, fees, insurance, and credit, and van, profit, and tax, and how you're going to get paid. Bit at the beginning, bit in the middle, bit at the end. However you want to do it. Yeah, so there's lots to think about. You'll often get asked, can you give me a ballpark figure for rewiring my house? This is one way of doing it. You charge per point. And have a think how many points there's going to be. You'd have to have a walk around and stuff, and this is a pretty accurate number, isn't it? But I'm saying 135 points. This is all just in white plastic. Cost per point, £60. So 135 times 60 is about £8,100. You want to keep your ballpark figure quite high. If you're going into, I don't know, £4,000, and then when you come to quote you £8,000, they're going to think, well, what's going on here? Yeah, so that's one way of doing it. Ballpark, number of points, and charge whatever you're going to charge per point. You will have other electricians quoting for the job, and it's important the client knows if the quotes are like for like. It's also important to know what the client wants in terms of quality and finish. An example being sockets. This is off an internet website, the wholesalers, the MK range of sockets. White plastic is £3.60 each, and the edge range, I think it was £41 each a socket. So look at the difference that makes on your quote, either £108 or £1,200. Massive difference. And also circuits. How many circuits are being installed? Obviously, the more circuits, the better. You've got less chance of one circuit impacting on another circuit. But that means a bigger fuse board, a bigger CU. So you've got the Hager, all RCBO. That comes in at over 600 quid. Fuse box, still good boards, a bit cheaper. 422 for the Type A type RCBO. 316 for the AC type. You get different types of RCBOs now. And because we're putting lots of circuits in, we need a big board. So you might want to go for a dual RCD, double board. That's about 360 quid. Or the cheap end, you might just put 2 boards in, and you get 2 British General for 135 quid. So a lot of things that can impact on your quote. But you've also got to check that the client knows like for like. You're putting loads of circuits in a top of the range board. The other quote is for a cheap board, few circuits. To give an accurate quote, you've got to know exactly how many points she wants and where she wants them. I like to draw a little plan out and just mark them all on, the sockets, the lighting, and the kitchen where the appliances are going. They'll probably have a kitchen designer. The kitchen will be designed and you'll get the spec from them. Where you're going to put your fuse board, where the heating, where the boiler's going. You're switching, two-way switching, two-way, three-way switching, upstairs, downstairs, two-way in kitchens, various different types of lighting you're going to have. Task lighting, mood lighting, a bit of pendant lighting, under cabinet lighting. So this is your downstairs. Then we have the upstairs. Generally we have a little bit less upstairs, but it depends on spec. You've got your bathroom that they want underfloor heating, lighting in the bathroom, ventilation, again your sockets, if they want media, TV, if they're going to have like a little office, do they want more points for an office? Bedrooms, do they want wardrobe, powerful wardrobes for lighting and wardrobes? And also two-way switch in your bedroom. Do they want to be able to switch the lights on and off from the bed and from when you walk in the room? Yeah, so that's the upstairs. How long the job's going to take is a big factor in your quote, and how the house was built is going to be a big factor in how long the job is going to take. Various different building methods, brick, stud and plasterboard, lath and plaster, dot and dab, concrete floors, concrete ceilings. They've all got the pluses and minuses. Not many pluses and minuses about dot and dab and concrete floors and ceilings. That's just a nightmare. But like you putting sockets into lath and plaster can take a little bit longer than putting them in stud and plasterboard. But then stud and plasterboard, you might have Kingspan or something in here, some insulation. That's tricky to pull things through. Where generally pulling stuff through lath and plaster, it's quite simple. You've got a nice void. Brick, plaster, you've got to do more chasing, more dusty work, more mucky work. Lath and plaster, you always get this residue of plaster when they put the plaster on at the bottom. This can be difficult to get through. Have you got access underneath and below? Generally, the older houses, you've got wooden floorboards and joists. It's good for running your cables. If it's concrete, nah, don't bother. Yeah, so that how the house is built does put a big factor on how much you're going to charge for it. In my costings in this video, I'm making a few presumptions. I'm presuming a lot of the original demolition work and stuff has been done. The kitchen's been removed, bathroom's been removed, all tiles gone. Flooring and carpets have all been removed and walls have been stripped. There's no structural work that needs doing. We've got a skip on site for rubbish, which is lovely. The house is going to get plastered throughout, the skim coat. Skirtings will be in place. This is going to make more sense later. Yeah, so I've made a few presumptions. So we're basically just dealing with the electrical installation work, not any kind of building demolition or rubbish removal as such. It is quite tricky working out how much you're going to charge for your time. I think a good place to start is working out your hourly rate. Normally a first hour and then a slightly lower charge for the additional hours after that. And once you've worked out your hourly rate, you can work out what your day rate's going to be. And once you've worked out what your day rate is, then you can work out what you're going to charge when jobs take more than a day, a few days. A rewire, for example. Because you don't want to be too high and you don't want to be too low. You'll soon know if you've got your pricing wrong. If you're too high, work's not going to come in as quickly as you want it to. And if you're too low, you're never going to have any money. You can always look online as well just to gauge how other people are charging for these services in various different parts of the country. So you could look up firms near you and see what people are charging near you. It just gives you a good indication of what the going rates are. But of course, it ultimately comes down to what you want to charge. But it's always useful to know what other people charge. I think it's best to try and keep pricing as simple and clear as possible, because I generally find if the customer knows exactly what they're going to get charged, they're more likely to use you than not. Customers often worry about prices spiraling out of control and they're not quite sure what they're going to get charged at the end of the day. But if you've got a simple, clear breakdown of what your charges are, they are, like I said, they're more likely to use you. Obviously, things get more complex when you're doing rewires and stuff. There's a lot to discuss. But the most important thing is that the customer's happy with your price before you start the job. There is a big difference between quoting and estimating for a job. You quote, that's legally binding, and you want to specify exactly what work's got to be done so there's no confusion. For example, underfloor heating. Who's laying the mat? Who's doing that? Is that the tiler? Are you doing that? Get these things sorted out. You've got to have a complete knowledge of who's doing what. And also any variations you've got to agree additionally. If something's overrun, if something's changed, things always change. That's got to be agreed. Now your estimate, that's just an educated guess really. It's going to be roughly this to do this job, and it's not binding. But I would say if you do an estimate and the price is going to be vastly different, you've got to discuss that first with your client and get them to agree to it. So, how much is this rewire going to cost then? Well, let's have a look at materials first. I've got two price lists here. One from the Ballpark, which is white plastic accessories, and one I've gone for the mid-price range accessories. So the Ballpark figure, it's I've gone for slightly cheaper smoke alarms, a slightly cheaper consumer unit as well, and that came out at 2353. With the mid-price range, socket price was £10.70, a slightly more expensive consumer unit. I've gone for D1 smoke alarms. So that came in at 3324 for materials. So you can see, even just going up to slightly mid-range accessories, it's put £1,000 on the price. So this is my cost for labour. How have I worked it out? Well, I've gone for 15 days at £300 a day, and I've also added 20% for profit. So the 4,500 plus 900 equals the 5,400. Now 15 days, is that going to be long enough? I think that'll be fine. And this £300 a day, that's not necessarily all coming to me. I might get somebody in for a couple of days to help me out as well. So I'm covering costs in case I need to get somebody else in. Obviously, the more people on the job, the less days it'll take, but it kind of balances itself out. It's going to take less days, but each day is going to cost a bit more. So yeah, that's my price for labour. So what's this 20% added for profit? Don't forget the money you charge in your days. That's running your business as well. So there's nothing wrong with adding profit on. You've got to make some money at the end of the day. You're not just working for wages. This 15 days thing, it's not a linear thing. It's not on the straight line every day you're in there, because you're working around other people as well. You might get in for the first 5 days, do your first fix, bit of testing afterwards and make sure your cable's got in right, no damage. But then the plumbers might be in, the plasters are in, so you can't be working in those rooms. So you might be waiting for a while. Sometimes you're waiting for weeks before you can get back in again. But that's okay, because you can do other jobs while you're waiting to get in. So you might decide that you want to start doing a CU on this day because the plaster are finished downstairs. They're upstairs now, out the way. When's the kitchen fitters coming in, you kind of want to work with and around them, and you can start doing your second fixing, doing your final testing, your snagging. So it's not 15 days in a row, and you might be in, like one day, you might just be in for a couple of hours, So it kind of all adds up roughly to 15 days. So here we go then. This is the cost for the Rewire, the 3-bedroom house. It's coming at £8,724. And if we compare it to the Ballpark, which is what we were doing, that came in at 8,100. So we weren't that far off, were we? Which is pretty good. And then we look at the Ballpark again, when I just calculated with the cheaper white plastic accessories. That came in at 7,753. Again, pretty close to the Ballpark. So there we go. That's a Rewire costs of a 3-bedroom house. Obviously, this is just hypothetical. I might have missed some bits and pieces out. But I think this is a pretty fair quote for doing this job where I live and work. Obviously, it's going to vary around the country and stuff. Some people are going to think it's going to be cheap, too cheap. Some people are going to think it's too expensive. It just depends on the individual circumstances for every single job. And obviously, you want to go through your figures 2-3 times. Just check to make sure that the quote you give is covering every aspect of it. You haven't missed something out. You're not going to get bitten and you're not going to lose money on it. Yeah, so you've got to be careful when you're doing your costs.